Peppa is not perfect. Kill me. I don't want to suffer. And today, we're going to dig up some of the craziest, weirdest, and most mysterious moments of Peppa Pig. Here, even things have a life of their own, so let's get started. In the episode Desert Island, we don't have just one but 3 haunted ships. Since we have Grandpa Dog, Grandpa Pig, and Mr. Rabbit as the main characters who very happily go fishing. But wait, just as they get on the boat, we can notice that there is a steering wheel, a flag, and a gear lever. So far, everything is fine with this boat, but things start to get weird when they sail the boat and reach their destination. Well, here we can notice that apparently, the gear lever decided not to go with them. Maybe it decided to stay on solid ground? But here it doesn't change. The mystery of the levers. Well, after the 3 grandpas' boat sinks, Daddy Dog has to go rescue them on the deserted island. But when he's about to get on his boat, we can notice that his gear lever is on the edge of the boat, much farther from the steering wheel. But just as he gets on the boat, magically the lever moves closer to the side of the steering wheel. The craziest thing is that when Dad, the dog, and the kids finally arrive with the grandparents, the lever, the gear lever, is nowhere to be found. What kind of sneaky levers did they put on these boats? And how on earth did that dog manage to drive all the way to the island without a lever? That's truly an unsolved mystery. In this next mistake, let's pay attention to Peppa and George's faces before moving on to the mystery. Well, we see how they found their parents' trunk of clothes. And like the nosy little ones they are, they decide to try on the clothes. And of course, to complete her outfit, Peppa ends up drawing on her face like a clown, in the style of the Joker's smile. I don't know if that dress was too tight on Peppa. When she takes it off, that Joker-like smile drawn with lipstick just disappears. They're cartoons, man! Don't look for logic in everything. There's got to be some magic. And just like the episodes of Peppa are kind of strange, apparently things in this world get a little weird sometimes too. In this next episode, we see how the little piglets are excited because Mr. Zebra just delivered a package from their aunt to them. When their parents take the package to the kitchen, Peppa. Let's focus on these objects. We see that behind them there is a cabinet, which isn't very long to be honest, and next to this cabinet there's a trash can. But in the next scene, when Peppa is speeding by on her horse, we can notice that this cabinet stretches out more than what we had seen before. Also, the trash can that we had seen next to the cabinet disappears and is replaced by 3 colored boxes. We know that some episodes of Peppa are full of mysteries, but this mistake doesn't make any sense at all. It happens in the episode Lost when Peppa and her family go to have a good time up in the mountains. But during their trip, Peppa, as always, has to mess things up and loses the keys because she drops them down the drain. To fix this problem, they decide to buy a fishing rod from Mrs. Rabbit, but the rod doesn't reach the bottom of the drain. Mrs. Rabbit comes over and uses her brain to solve the problem. So she throws a stone to see how deep the drain is, and we can hear a splashing sound. 6? It's very deep, and this makes it clear that there's water at the bottom, right? Well, that's how it seems, friends. Later, they even send for a crane to be able to get the darn keys. But, oh, surprise! If we look at the bottom, there isn't a single drop of water. So, what happened to the splashing sound? Was it Daddy Pig's belly? It seems we'll never know. Next is the best magic trick you have ever seen in your life. We found it in the Christmas show episode. We see how all the members of Peppa's playgroup gather in a theater to see Mr. Potato, and we see Peppa sitting in the last row with some of her friends. But in the row in front of Peppa, we can see this curious brown cat. We can see the magic trick right when Madame Gazelle says that the show is about to start. If we look again at how everyone is arranged, we can see that now the brown cat teleports to the front row. Probably someone had really stinky feet, and that's why the cat boy moved all the way to the front row. But wait, I don't know if this theater or the seats have some kind of trick. Well, just when the show is about to start, Pedro Pony gets nervous and asks for permission to go to the bathroom. Now let's pay attention to these 2 characters sitting next to Freddy Fox just as Pedro walks down the aisle to go pee. The 2 kids we saw a moment ago have now disappeared. Do these seats eat kids, or is it part of the show? End scenes? Later we found out whose feet smelled bad. When Pedro walks away, there's a scene that zooms in on Pony, and we can see how the cat is sitting in the back row again. But when Pedro comes back from the bathroom, the cat magically returns to sit in the very front row. What kind of trick was that? So Pedro, Pony, you really need to wash those paws. You old mangy thing. You old gray-haired one. You old leper old man. We know that Peppa is a piglet, right? If we had any doubts, this scene makes it clear. In the episode, Rebecca Rabbit, Rebecca the little bunny, teaches Peppa and George how to be rabbits. And of course, as good rabbits, they have to eat carrots. This happens during dinner. We can see that everyone is waiting to eat their carrots, but George starts acting up and says he doesn't want to eat anything. Delicious. But first, let's pay attention to the plates. Everyone has their 3 carrots on their plates. After this, we see how Mr. Rabbit tries to get George to eat his carrots. But just as George grabs his carrot, Peppa has already devoured her 3 carrots in less than a millisecond. Well, we have a rival for Flash here too, huh? Damn, Peppa always beats me. In the Richard Rabbit episode, the rabbit comes to play with Peppa and George, but let's pay a little attention to Peppa's room. We see that it's all messy and all her toys are scattered everywhere, and the basket where they keep these toys is completely empty. After George comes along with Richard to play, we see that the room is less messy than before. And also, the toy basket is now full of toys. Probably, the first thing that comes to mind is that Peppa was so embarrassed by her mess that she started picking up all her toys. But that would be impossible because Peppa was too busy building the house with all these blocks. Did the elves finally do something good? In the episode of Kale and Kangaroo, we can see that Peppa's parents are probably very shy. Well, in this first scene, we see how the whole pig family comes out to greet the kangaroo family. If we pay attention, Peppa and George are standing right in front of their parents. But when the kangaroo approaches the piglets, Mommy and Daddy Pig disappear from the frame. How did this happen? Were they too shy to say hello to the kangaroo girl? Or did they think she was going to give them a big kick? But that's not all. Later on, when they're more comfortable, Peppa the pig teaches Kale how to be a little piggy by jumping in the muddy puddle. But let's look at the size of this puddle. It seems pretty small, but just when the other characters start jumping, the puddle suddenly expands out of nowhere. It was probably because Daddy Pig's weight made the ground sink, and that's why the puddle got bigger. And here you have it, friends. These are some of the funniest mistakes in Peppa Pig, where things don't always make sense. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment which mistake you found the funniest. See you in the next video.